Good morning to everyone present at today's public hearing of the Vetting Commission, established under Law number 65 of 2023 on the external evaluation of judges and candidates for the position of Judge of the Supreme Court of Justice. I am Andrei Bivol, Deputy Chair of the Commission and Chair of Panel A of the Commission, and I declare this session open. This hearing is being conducted under Law 252 of 2023 of the external evaluation of judges and prosecutors, and under the Commission's rules of organization and functioning. The subject of today's hearing is Mr. Dmitrii Fujenco, judge at the Southern Court of Appeal, previously, until 27 of December 2024, Comrade Court of Appeal. Mr. Judge Fujenco, welcome. Thank you. Hello. I am joined by the two other members of the panel A. On my left is Madam Lavly Perling, the international member of the Commission. On my right is Mr. Lilian Enciu, national member of the Commission. The panel is also assisted by members of the Secretariat. Behind you, you may see representatives of the media and the public. Also present today is a photographer who will be briefly taking photographs at the beginning of the hearing for a maximum of 3 minutes. The hearing will be conducted with interpretation between Romanian and English. To allow for accurate interpretation, I ask everyone to speak clearly and slowly. The proceedings are being recorded. The recordings of the public hearings will generally be available online at the Commission's website, www.vettingmd.eu, within 3 days after the hearing. We'll review briefly the evaluation process of Mr. Fujenco. Commission started the evaluation on 7th of February 2025 by notifying by email Mr. Fujenco and requesting to complete and return the ethics questionnaire and declarations provided for in Law 252 of 2023, and he returned them on 27th of February 2025. On 13 December 2025, in line with Article 37, paragraph 3 of the regulation of the Commission, Mr. Fujenco was informed that he was randomly designated to Panel A, and the subject was informed about the right to present a justified request for recusal if he deems such a measure necessary. Up until now, this request was not submitted. Within the evaluation, the Commission uses information from financial institutions, open sources, state tax service, and the Commission assesses the information it obtains for its relevance and reliability. Between 20 March 2025 and 5 June 2025, the Commission requested Judge Fujenco to present additional information to clarify certain aspects within 4 rounds of questions, and he provided answers and documents within the deadlines. On 10 June 2025, the Commission informed Mr. Fujenco about finalizing the evaluation and about identifying some doubts on fulfilling the financial and ethics criteria. On 12th of June 2025, Mr. Fujenco sent the Commission the answer confirming that will participate in the evaluation. He was given access to the materials on 13th of June after he returned the notification on access to materials and the confidentiality statement. On 18th and 19th of June, Mr. Fujenco sent explanations and additional documents to the Commission that the Commission analyzed. Mr. Fujenco, do you want to add something or rectify the answers you have provided to the request for information that you have provided to the Commission? Yes, I would like to underline the most important aspect for the Commission that I'd like the Commission to consider when you'll be evaluating me. As the majority of citizens in Moldova, I live within the limits of my income. I establish my priorities and expenditures so that the money I have at my disposal are enough till the end of the month, till the end of the year or till next salary. So the CEP, according to CEP, the expenses were in line with the means available to my family. When I didn't have enough money, I was helped by my parents or parents-in-law. They contributed to the family's budget with food, produce, and financial means, and it's a traditional practice, a very used practice by any family in Moldova. When my income became bigger, I was able to make some savings. I want to say that I believe that the conclusions in point number 8 made by the Commission are conclusions that I disagree with. It's paragraph 73 that I disagree with as well. I don't recall the name mentioned there. You referred there to the methodology published on the National Bureau of Statistics website, where it says that where the expenses and income calculated by NBS are calculated considering the in-kind expenses. So I received food products from my parents and my parents-in-law, and my family didn't have any expenses in this regard. Otherwise, I support everything presented to you in writing regarding the doubts that shall be discussed during the evaluation, and I support my declarations that announcements provided in the 3 rounds of questions. Thank you. Your answers to the ethics questionnaire and the declarations that you returned on 14th of February 2025 still accurate as of today?
Exact.
Yes, exactly. Members of the panel will now ask you questions regarding the doubts identified. We will try to keep our questions short and to the point. We ask that your answers be short and to the point as well. Mr. Fujenco, the Commission identified a potential inexplicable wealth of 258,000 lei, and the threshold for financial integrity in Law 252 is 20 average salaries established by law of 2023, which represents 244,000 lei. According to the primary investigation, the Commission identified an income that is greater by around 58,000 lei. Sorry, 51,000 lei. So 51,755. You mentioned the CEP in your introduction, an index established by the National Bureau of Statistics based on the consumption basket for a great range of products and based on thousands of participants selected randomly by NBS. Starting from the declaration that you submitted and from what you said today inclusively, I'd like you to confirm. So, did the Commission understand correctly these are your arguments? First of all, you requested to decrease the CEP because you received in-kind support from the rural household of your parents-in-law, correct? Yes, I support the position I expressed previously. Also, you requested to reduce the expenses from CEP regarding clothing because you had regular trips to Romania where prices for clothes are lower. Yes, I support my position and I presented relevant proof and evidence. in this sense. Another argument, you asked to eliminate the category from CEP on health because you didn't incur any expenses for healthcare. Do you support this? Yes, I have medical insurance, so I didn't have additional healthcare expenses. And you also requested to decrease the CEP because you reduced the daily expenses. Do you support this position? Yes, I do. Any other arguments you have for reducing the amount in CEP? For 2016, I presented another argument as well regarding my daughter who, at the beginning of August 2017, left to the US. She went to the United States. She was abroad, so she wasn't in the care of my family. When did she come back? She came back in 2018 at the end of month of May, and I presented evidence in this regard, additional to the explanations provided by myself on the doubts that shall be discussed within the hearing. Next question will be related to what you stated today in the introduction of the hearing. You mentioned that from the explanations provided by NBS, by National Bureau of Statistics, CEP already takes into account in-kind rural expenses for those who live in urban areas, because the NBS knows about this phenomenon and they consider this when they calculate the CEP index every year. So my question is, how do you explain that in your case, CEP for food produce should be decreased, even though this index takes into account this in-kind contributions from rural households? Well, in rural areas, NBS considers expenses regarding the management of the household. In our case, we didn't have these expenses for maintaining and managing the household. We just received this food without any expenses related to managing the household. For instance, expenses for growing and having poultry around the house. From the calculations made by the Commission, between 2013 and 2023, your household had an income from available resources that go much beyond the national average, 4 times higher, 6 times higher. In some years, so in 1 year, it was 25 times higher than the amount in CEP. It is difficult to understand your arguments because your incomes were much higher than CEP. CEP is not an index that you can't take into account. Your household, as you explained previously, didn't have savings, significant savings. So you could have used all the money you had for expenses, but we see this deficit. Do we understand correctly that your statement is that all the money that you received, you spent for daily expenses? May I answer? Yes. If we refer to 2012, where there was according to the Commission, there's this amount indicated. The income of the household was under the average, under the national average, as per National Bureau of Statistics data, and it was 87%, if I understood correctly. The table presented cash savings available for the family. I mean, I had additional expenses related to repayment of a bank loan. Will reach that point a little bit later. So in 2015, we bought a vehicle that was a pretty modest one, Logan. It wasn't a luxury car. We were able thus to save some money. We align our priorities. So we decided to buy a cheaper car and use the money for other expenses in our family, inclusively for the expenses included in the CEP. To finish with this general aspects and move on to concrete years and expenses. How do you explain this contradiction? On one hand, your income during all these years was higher than the CEP index, but you say that we need to reduce it nonetheless because you didn't spend that much. You spent less than the amount included in CEP. It shows that there's a surplus, there's a big difference in cash. So my question is, beside the expenses identified by the Commission and those you mentioned, vehicles and loan repayments, for what did you spend the money? According to my statements and declarations, if we refer to 2015, we bought a vehicle that was 120,000 lei, if I'm not wrong. This was a pretty big amount of money for my family, and we had to reduce other expenses of our family. Okay, but this means that the surplus registered in previous years represented savings. You accumulated savings for several years. If the surpluses were not indicated, it means that they were non-existent. The term of surplus is relative. We are talking about year 2015 here, about the surplus only for 2015. In the fourth round of questions, you said that support from your parents-in-law's household was being provided until 2020, when it became less significant after that year. Could you please estimate this amount of support? Was it the same? Was it constant until 2020? Was it the same every year? Could you make an estimation, please? Was it more or less the same every year until 2020? You know, we never estimated in amounts of money this in-kind support that was provided. But I can say that we almost never bought meat or other produce, because we had this help from my parents-in-law and my parents. This is my answer. I stand by. I just want to add, just a second, I want to clarify. It's not about monetary evaluation here, not amounts of money, but in volumes, at least in volumes. How frequent was this support, and was this volume constant, this volume of support constant during these years? For instance, fruits. My parents-in-law's household allowed us not to buy fruits from the market. Okay. What changed in 2020 when you no longer needed this support? It wasn't an abrupt change in 2020. I can say that it decreased abruptly in 2020, but I think that starting in 2018, It dwindled and dwindled, and in 2020, the support from my parents and parents-in-law became less and less because of their health and because of their age as well. Starting 2012, your household started using more frequently bank cards for payments that would be normally included in the CEP index. Between 2018 and 2023, we verified the consumption habits of your family, and the analysis of this data shows a stable increase of daily expenses every year that go beyond the CEP index. In 2023, the expenses on bank cards of your family go beyond CEP by 2.5 times. And you also had available cash that you confirmed that you used for daily expenses. How do you explain that starting in 2018, your household seems not to have been that dependent on the household of your parents-in-law, and we documented this big difference between the incomes and expenses? Maybe you've seen, even now, without the question you'll formulate, I said that in 2018, the support from my parents decreased. Second of all, the income of my family increased, and our opportunities, our possibilities also became bigger. We received more income, we had more income. And we always considered our possibilities, our limits. When we had less income, we considered that. When we had a bigger income, we had bigger opportunities. And you've seen this in my declarations. Okay, now let's discuss about specific aspects. In 2012, the Commission identified negative balance between ingoing and outgoing flows that varies between 23 and 28,000 lei. With the exception of CEP that we already discussed, how do you explain this negative this negative balance? As I answered in the fourth round of questions, and I explained today, we just considered the possibilities that we had. We didn't spend more than we had. We respected these limits. That year was very difficult for us, and the loans that we took in previous years were taken because we didn't have enough money, enough financial means. And when we had the opportunity to repay these loans in 2012, we did so because we had the necessary financial amount. We repaid it, but it was difficult because the salary was low, and it was difficult to live with that low salary and also repay the loans. Let's go back to 2012. In the first round of questions, you mentioned that you had the christening party of your son and you had only the church event, and you didn't have any other event at a venue. You said that you borrowed you received 25,000 lei from your relatives, and you provided statements from third parties. The Commission doesn't deny that the event took place, but the Commission is worried, is concerned about this event because This event is used to explain or even justify a certain amount of money for transactions that cannot be verified. Moreover, this amount was not declared by you. It wasn't in your income and property declaration for 2012. What's the reason for not declaring this amount? That is a significant one for that year, for that time. Yes, indeed, that amount of money is a big one, a significant one. And I didn't even calculate from whom what amount of money were received. And I had this issue, how should I declare what money was received from whom? It's difficult to know. And it was an omission on my behalf. I had no interest to hide my income. In this case, this income was not subject to taxes, so there was no necessity to declare it. It is what it is. As per tradition, the relatives came to the christening event and they provided financial support for that on the occasion of the christening. It was very modest. We didn't have an event in a venue or something similar. We only had close family, parents, my parents-in-law, and closest friends. We don't deny this. But you answered the question. You said that you just failed to declare this amount in your income and property declaration and that this amount is non-taxable. And it wasn't even introduced in your annual declaration. I understand that you just failed to declare it, you just omitted it. The same year, you had significant expenses to repay your loans at Enerbank and Maib that you took in previous years. It seems that the repayment of these loans and the purchase of some car insurances for a year are driving this negative balance between 23 and 48,000 lei. How did you, where did you get this money to buy the car insurance and to repay the loans? As I mentioned in my previous answers, after we received this amount of money from the christening party, we decided for this 25,000 lei to be used in order to repay the debts or these bank loans that we took from these two banks. Okay. Now, let's move on to 2013. In 2013, the Commission identified a negative balance between ingoing and outgoing flows of 7,778 lei, with the exception of CEP index that we discussed already. How do you explain this negative balance for 2013? I can't provide other explanations. It's regretful that I didn't know, I didn't foresee that such a procedure of evaluation will be held in the future, and I didn't keep the records of my expenses in order to be able to present to the Commission how, in which manner the budget of the family was managed. But I insist it was managed in such a way as to be within the limits of our financial possibilities. We saved where we were able to save, and we proceeded in such a manner so that in the end we can respect the amount that was at the disposal of our family. Let's discuss now about year 2015. In 2015, the Commission identified a negative balance between outgoing and ingoing financial flows between 49,000 lei and 69,550 lei. Besides the CP index, how do you explain this negative balance? If I understand correctly, this difference is related to amounts on the bank card of my wife. I didn't keep records. I didn't know that on my wife's bank card she had this amount. And this is why I didn't declare this amount to the Commission. But nonetheless, I presented all bank accounts and bank statements to the Commission, so this amount was not hidden. Otherwise, as I explained at the beginning today, when I had my intervention, I mentioned this year, and I mentioned that we bought that vehicle. This difference from 41,000 to 69,000 is due to some donations from your parents and parents-in-law offered on two occasions, the birthday of your wife and the marriage. You said that you received 27,000 lei, and this donation you declared in a round of questions to the Commission, but none of these donations are in the income and property declaration for 2015. How do you explain? You declared them now, but at the moment, back then, you didn't declare those amounts. You know, it's the same situation. I can't say that the amount was really low. This was a gift, a birthday gift, and it's just a simple omission. These gifts were not that frequent. They were not given every year. I didn't say that we received such gifts every year. These were just some gifts, and I just failed to declare it. I just omitted this information. When I had big amounts donated by my parents, they were declared, obviously, but in this case, I just omitted to declare it. But you declared donations. You declared in 2016, in 2020, 2022. You declared donations. What's the reason for not declaring donations, similar donations in 2012, 2014, 2015? Comparing the amounts of donations declared, you'll see that those amounts are much bigger. And I paid attention to these amounts. I paid much more attention to these amounts. And these amounts were declared. But the amounts that were not declared, compared to declared amounts, were several times lower.
Okay, but for these specific periods where you have lower incomes, these amounts were very important. And our question relates to the thing that at that moment you didn't consider these amounts to be important to be declared. Nevertheless, now, during the question rounds, we believe it's important to be declared these amounts. So we need to understand and to assess the credibility. We cannot verify these amounts of money. No, there is no way to verify that, to check, because it is not relevant to any documents or maybe some declaration from the people who give you the donation. So that is the reason of our doubt. You know, in 2015, the salary for the judge have been already increased. It was increased, and respectively, my wife, she also had a job and she could contribute to the family income higher than previously. And if compare with 2015 and 2012, the family income was significantly bigger. Thus, I do not believe this question is that relevant, this comparison is that relevant. We mentioned some figures. The amounts were quite high, so that's why I paid attention to that. I understood that I have to declare this amount of money. It was a significant one. My mistake was that this gift of my parents for my birthday didn't seem to be declared. Okay, but that's the same year you purchased a vehicle that you paid 125,000 lei. Besides that, you also had expenses of fuel and the car maintenance, which also ended to some big amounts of money. How did you cover these expenses? Only from my official incomes, from my salary. And the gifts, again, which we declared to the Commission. We didn't have any other sources. I'd like to highlight again for the Commission attention that we didn't bought a luxury vehicle. We do not speak about luxury or not. We're speaking about simply calculations. Calculation in incomes and expenditures. This was only because we prioritize our expenditures to fit the amount of money that we could come monthly. Okay, so if we take all your financial means available in 2015 for your family, that means that we could end up in a sum of 202,000 lei, including this 27,000 lei, of which you declared 170,000 without CEP. Besides that, we also had 4,000 for retail expenditures. If we take out of these expenses, that means for your daily expenses, you have 36,000 lei monthly in 2015. That means if we accept this donation, if we exclude this 27,000, you have only 9,000 lei monthly for 2015. And the situation when the CEP for 2015 was 105,000 lei a year. So you come with the explanation that you survived on these 36,000 lei for 2015. The CEP includes yearly the clothing purchasing, for example. So in this year, if we do not have not enough money, that means that we just simply do not buy any other clothing. So this is the same approach for everything. There where we can save something, we do save. Yeah, but you want to appeal the CEP, but your revenue, your income was 2.5 higher than the CEP. So the problem is not the CEP. And the Commission, or the question of the Commission, does not regard the value of the CEP because the CEP was affordable for you. It wasn't higher than your incomes. The answer is very easy. We never have had the possibility to buy a car, a very simple car, not a luxury one. So that means that not Judge in 2015 could afford to buy a very simple vehicle, not a luxury one. what we did, we tried to live that way that we could have some savings. Of course, my parents helped me enough, but we did not. Of course, it is impossible to control the previous years. Like, for example, when the first child appeared in our family, my parents helped us much more than before because they worked that time, and that time it was very difficult for me to do for a living because the first 6 months I haven't retained any salary. I didn't have any salaries for half a year. All that I got from the cart, it was a pen. So this is the reality of my life. We learned to live this way so we could save. This is our reality. Okay, let's come closer to current days. In 2017, we identify a potential negative balance in between income and expenditures of 159,867,000. In this, you have another vehicle purchased which was registered on the name of your mother-in-law, specifically a Lexus of a model of 2012. It was purchased by your mother-in-law in 2017 for an amount of money of 269,910 lei. But this vehicle is still on the name of your mother-in-law, regardless that she does not hold a driving license. Besides that, you know that your father-in-law, he also doesn't use this vehicle because he believes this car doesn't fit the national roads. Do you think that this... you also mentioned that you bought this vehicle in order to transport your father-in-law to the hospital in Chisinau. How often do you do that? How often did you used to do that? I would like to mention not only my father-in-law, but also my mother-in-law, and I come with some proofs in this regard. Sometimes I took them to Chisinau weekly. Sometimes it was 2 times a month. It depended on various cases because immediately after my father-in-law got the illness, the control or the medical check was done weekly. Besides that, my mother-in-law also had the same problems during the COVID period in 2020, 2021. They both were under the risk zone, and they used to stay at home, and they didn't leave their house at all, which means that we exploited this vehicle only in their interests. Okay, what vehicle used your wife to use before 2017? Exactly, more specifically, 2012, 2017. She used to use the family car because usually I used to drive the vehicle more often. Which means that by 2027, your wife didn't hold a vehicle. No, she occasionally used mine. You have said in the question rounds that only you and your wife used regularly this Lexus car that we mentioned. It is confirmed by the insurance policy, internal and external, where you and your wife are registered as insured people. So the other 2 days, your mother-in-law, 2 years, your mother-in-law was insured, but the beneficiaries of the car insurance were you and your wife. You also told that you do not believe this car insurance to be important for these questions, but it is a presumption that the beneficiary of the car insurance is issued for the person who uses this car. So that means he or she drives the car. That means she or he insures or has the risk and is responsible for driving this car. So only you two were the people who were insured, who had this car insurance, and only you two also have the driving license, which brings us to the idea that you are those two people to use this car in your family's benefit, in your interests. So otherwise, what is the reason that you bought this car insurance? Can you confirm it again? Who used effectively this vehicle? Me, myself, used this vehicle 7 times in a total. So I drove it for 7 times, I think. I don't remember exactly, but less than 10 times for sure. What about your wife? My wife, the other cases I cannot remember, but I'd like to mention and to insist that the car's insurance, it doesn't give you the right of property of the vehicle, but at the same time, I admit that this vehicle cannot be driven with, according to the driving rules. You cannot drive a vehicle without holding this car insurance. But again, we use this car only or predominantly in my parents-in-law interest. Your wife, did you contribute for the acquisition of this car? Do you ask me financially? Financially and effectively, if you are present in buying it, in identifying, choosing. Financially, I haven't contributed. Speaking about choosing it, yes, we bought it. We just bought it on order, and the only thing that I contributed with, I just gave some pieces of advice, and I personally drove that time this vehicle from Chisinau to Cahul. This is the reason why I was initially included into the car insurance. It allowed me to drive this vehicle that time from Chisinau to Cahul. Tell me, please, what are the financial means that allowed your parents-in-law to purchase this vehicle? From the source of financial means were the saving of my parents-in-law. Besides that, their brother-in-law contributed as well, because my brother-in-law lives in UK since 2018 and 2011, and he has a business and in this regard I also submitted proofs. He holds a house now or in 2017. In 2017 I couldn't submit any proofs because in Great Britain and UK, which is also stipulated by their legislation, the data are preserved only for the last 7 years. According to the fiscal legislation regarding the LTDs, an LTD is obliged to preserve, to keep the data only for the past 6 years, and the fiscal authorities save them all or keep them only for 5 years. Period. Thank you. Okay, let's take a step backward to the moment of transaction. You told that your parents-in-law and your brother-in-law contributed to the purchasing of the vehicle. Do you know the value of this contribution? The share of every party? I cannot say it surely. What I know for sure is that my brother-in-law transmitted in cash over 10,000 pounds. But I have never asked my mother-in-law the exact amount. I don't know also their budget, family budget, maybe. So I cannot explain explicitly the share of every party. I think that the biggest share, the biggest contribution to the purchasing of these cars was from the part of my brother-in-law. Besides this money transmitted for the vehicle purchase, do you know other cases that your brother-in-law offered support to your parents-in-law? Yes, he continued to support this family after the car was purchased. Can you come with some examples? So does he transmit money regularly? Usually he does when he comes to the Republic of Moldova. The past 2 years he didn't come to Moldova, so which means that he didn't contribute to their family. He didn't support with the cash my parents-in-law. And when he comes to Moldova, he transmits this money to your parents-in-law in cash. Yes, exactly. In the moment this car was purchased, what was the reason to purchase it? Because I believe that your brother-in-law knew that your mother-in-law didn't hold a driving license. And probably the information about how good is this, how does this car fits their locality they live in, also wasn't secret to know. So who decided to buy this car model? Why specifically this car model? Okay, I'm ready to answer you this question. As I have already mentioned, my father-in-law, at the beginning of 2017, got a serious illness. He was hospitalized because he occurred some motoric problem. We didn't have any problems before, but the doctors promised us at that time that they could solve this problem shortly, but it doesn't mean that it is going to be solved forever. I'm not sure that I would like to detailedly discuss this problem because it is a personal thing. No, there is no need to detailedly go through these facts. I will try to avoid these health problems, but what I want to mention is that this car was chose from various reasons. First of all, it is easy maneuverable, which means it is very easy to drive. Besides that, regarding the roads in our village are quite good, in a good condition, because this is not a very remote village. It is close to Chișinău. The other reason was that my father-in-law also told that this vehicle does not has a cargo potential. They cannot, for example, embark a sack of cereals in it. These are the citation of my father-in-law. But he could use it in other means. Yes, he drives it to the shop and back. But he doesn't use it regularly. Yes, he doesn't, because he has a kind of psychological barrier in using such cars. The biggest amount of time, where was this vehicle used? In what part of the country. In 2020-2021, the vehicle or the car was mostly in our yard in Chisinau. Why? Because we had to use it regularly for my parents-in-law to drive them to the hospital and back, to buy products, to go shopping, and so on. Besides that, when my parents-in-law transmitted it on the name of my family, and we declared that the car is in our in our yard or within our yard. Can I ask about a flat on Dubidina Street in? I'd like to mention something about the car. I'd like to mention another fact that in this specific case, Commission mentioned, the panel mentioned, just a second, please, about close relationship within my family and this specific car. I would like to put another accent in this regard. I would like to put the accent on the close relationship in between my family and the culture family, because we are the only children who live here in the Republic of Moldova, because their daughter left the country. The same situation is with my parents, because my sister left Moldova and she lives abroad. So we are those who stayed in the Republic of Moldova, and we are those who can support and who can care of our parents. Thank you. Okay, speaking about the immovables. So in their declaration for 5 years, you told that you have a flat on Dubidina Street in Comrat and you purchased it in 2021. This fact was also stipulated into the declaration of income and property for 2021. In the first round of question, you declared that you lived in this flat since November 2018. Why you didn't declare the usage in the declaration of property and personal interest for 2028, 2029, and 2020? I'm sorry, but I think that when the law came into force in 2016, I hadn't had any property, any asset, and I didn't remember the legal provision in this regard. And when I faced this situation, I didn't realize that if in this condition I'll be evaluated. I periodically, at the moment, I hold this flat, and periodically, where if I need, I use it, which I didn't thought necessarily to declare. But from the discussion with my colleagues, I realized that I made a mistake. My conclusion was wrong. So I came with a detailed answer afterwards in the next rounds of questions. And I got to when I realized that it is important to declare this asset, I did it. And I didn't hide that I lived in this flat starting 2018. So you declared that you receive this flat and you are allowed to live in it without paying some monthly hiring rate, or you paid only the bills. Can you make an estimation and evaluation of your expenditures, the average expenditures that you had in this apartment from starting 2018? I haven't estimated it. I didn't estimate because the evolution of the price were very different. For example, for natural gases included. In 2018, the gases were 4 leys and 50 bonds. In 2017, the prices rose. And if I remembered correctly, the compensation wasn't offered to the owners of the apartment. So that's why I cannot tell you exactly, but you can easily verify it by checking my bank accounts and the payments, all the financial movements that I did that time. And I explained to the panel the way how to verify all these things, because all for example, the amounts of money which is bigger from Comrat and lower in Cahul. And that, in this regard, I also presented the bank sheet for 2024, and you can verify it in the Moldova Agro and Bank. You can easily see or learn who is the owner and to see the code which coincides with the bill presented by the owner of the flat. I also submitted the photos transmitted by the owner and screenshots from my phone. But always this flat was hit because it was the condition for its normal maintenance. Can you elucidate the circumstances that this flat was provided to you for a free of charge use? What was your relation with the owner? Your relationship? We were just in a good relationship. We are very good acquaintances. I used to buy fish in the market for many years from Cahul or Comrat? From Comrat. And this woman, as I lately learned, used to sell fish in that market for longer than 20 or 30 years. I cannot say you exactly, but a lot, many years in a row that she used to have this activity. Some of my colleagues advised me to buy fish from this lady because the price was better and the quality was high. So in case every time when I drove to Chisinau and back, I used to buy fish from this lady. I also already had her number, and I could phone her. I would phone her and ask for fish. I also shared her phone number to my colleagues. Okay, but what about the flat? How did you end up to have this flat? How did she propose it to you? Well, we met on a court, but now at the appeal court is situated close to the central market of Comrat. Respectively, during one day, during the lunchtime, we met and started chatting. She said, I'm already here in Comrat, and I'm going to buy fish more often from you. And Just from this small talk, she asked me whether I identify a flat or an accommodation to stay. I told no, I didn't manage so far. Was that difficult to identify an apartment to hire? Yes, it was extremely difficult. The market wasn't very developed that time, or the services on the market weren't developed at that time, and it was very difficult to identify an accommodation. 2 months I used to drive, go and back to commute. And what's the distance in between Cahul and Comrat? 90-ish kilometers. 89 from the entrance from Cahul to the entrance in Comrat. So 90-ish. Okay, so this flat was purchased in February 2018, which means very close to the moment when I found out this information from you, by the way. But none the owner of the flat, neither her mother, didn't have an official income before you purchased the flat. How did they managed to purchase the flat? Well, according to the questions provided by the vetting panel, I had to learn to this question and to said Mrs. Ina Bolgar communicated, told that they activated on a patent basis, respectively, according to the legislation, to the law regarding the entrepreneur patent, the Article 3, Paragraph 3. The entrepreneurship activities does not impose the state registration of the owner and the license issuing. I have to mention it on the holder of the patent, of the business license. They do not. It is not mandatory to have the financial balance which respectively this woman used to activate based on this entrepreneurship patent, and I presented to Mrs. Bolgar all the registration or records about this thing on the name of Akbash, Mrs. Akbash, the mother of the holder.
The Commission verified this information and identified that only the mother of the owner had this entrepreneurial license, and the licenses identified were valid only for 11.5 months out of 3 years before the purchase. We understand and accept the argument that those who have these business licenses, entrepreneurial patent, don't have tax obligations. They pay a fixed amount of money monthly. Our doubts are related to the fact that the owner of that apartment didn't have other properties beside this apartment. And if the real estate market in Comrat was that problematic back then, we understand that the owner could have had some income from renting this apartment. But the owner decided to give it to you for free of charge use. So what's the explanation? Only because you bought fish on the market from her? Maybe, but what's the explanation? This is where the doubt occurs. It's not clear why did she give up a very probable income because of lack of apartments for rent in Comrade, just to give you this apartment to use free of charge. I want to mention, from the evidence presented by myself, I indicated there Madam Akbash for 2016 or 2017. She's included there as an owner of a patent. So, from Madam Ina Bulgar's words, I understood that she found a different patent on the name of a different person who's deceased now and who worked with them. But it's a man who is deceased. I didn't want to go into details and send this document to the commission. Perhaps it's not that relevant. But this shop, this market stall, it was on Victory Street, and I don't recall how you formulated the question. There was a property on the name of Madam Akbash, and then it was inherited by Madam Ina Bulgar. Several years in a row, I used that apartment. Then it was they used that place. Now it's and then it was bought, and out of that shop they used to sell fish. I don't bear responsibility for their tax discipline. But about the why, well, I can tell you, if the apartment was bought in February 2018, the apartment was left without being rented, because Madame Bulgar did not live in that apartment. She lived with her mother up until December. And I talked to Madame Bulgar, and why I didn't recall the concrete date when I started living in that apartment. She told me that it was December, the beginning of December. So for 9 months in a row, the apartment was uninhabited. She didn't want to rent that apartment. I don't know the reason. And this is what she told me. Because I offered to pay rent. Again, I didn't look for easy or cheap options and solutions. I offered to pay rent for the apartment, but that woman said that if she wanted to rent it, she would have done it a long time ago. She said that she was just looking for a person like me, a trustworthy person that wouldn't generate any problems with the apartment, to inhabit the apartment. She didn't want to bring a family into the apartment or students, so that there's no noise neighbors could complain about, because there were older persons living in that apartment building. So that will be the explanation. Perhaps I would have chosen a different solution if I had, but during 2 months I found no apartment to rent. And I was like a student.
Thank you. Yes, I have some follow-up questions. I would like to understand better what you said. Let's start from 2012, as you described how you got different kind of products from your parents and parents-in-law. Could you please tell me that you said you got the foods without spending money? Is it correct? Okay. Yeah. Yes or no?
Da, dar de exemplu pâine...
Yes, but for instance, we bought bread from a store.
Just a moment. You confirm, you said you got the products, no cost. You confirm it. Yeah.
Exact.
How did you get
Exactly.
foods? Did you go after them yourself, or were they brought to you? How?
We would go to my parents-in-law, and they would come to us as well. And it was both ways.
By car, by transport, by walk?
Cu mașină.
By car.
Dar distanța 5 km.
But the distance is 5 kilometers.
But this is still cost.
Da, dar noi nu
Yes,
pentru
but
300 de grame
we wouldn't go for 300 grams of potatoes, for instance.
And my next question is, what kind of product you got? You mentioned vegetables and fruits. They are not so, they are very delicious in Moldova, but as I understand, they are not so expensive. But at the same time, you explained that it was important for you, and you want to say that the CP doesn't work for you. My simple question, what kind of product you got from your parents and parents-in-law?
Besides vegetables and fruits, meat, it was meat and eggs.
Okay. Next group of question. You mentioned, as I understand, sometimes you declared donations and sometimes you didn't. And you declared only now for commission. Could you please tell us what kind of criteria you used in your head when you declared and when you didn't? Why I ask it again? Because I don't understand. From one side, you describe that the gifts and the donations, they were so important for your income. And from other side, you didn't declare them. So my question is, what kind of criterion you use, declare or not to declare donations?
I mentioned that, first of all, if you look at the amounts of 250,000 lei were declared, 660,000 lei were declared, and the 6,000 lei donation is an amount that is very, very different. The amount is very different.
Was the amount the only criteria?
You know, when the amount was big, this is when I paid attention. And I knew that it should be declared. But when the amounts were lower, I just didn't pay attention. It's not like I didn't deem them necessary to declare. I just didn't think about it. It wasn't with bad intention. It's not like if it's a small amount, I don't declare it. When I saw those big amounts, I realized that these should be declared. And since that point, I started declaring everything, all the donations. But until then, when the amounts were lower, I just didn't realize that they should be declared.
So, only amount, as I understand from your answer.
Yes, but this criterion, it's not necessary to declare an amount if it's a small amount. I know that it is necessary to declare, but I didn't realize that it was necessary. I didn't even think to declare that amount when it was small. But when these donations in big amounts occurred, I realized that it was necessary to declare those amounts. Only then I realized, and I realized that it is a donation and it should be declared. Up until then, I didn't even think about it.
Thank you. Yesterday, I think it was yesterday, you provided some additional documents. Why have not you provided documents regarding the money received you or your mother-in-law from your brother-in-law? We talk about £10,000. So, why you have not provided documents about it? Some bank account of parents brother-in-law. Why not?
I explained. Even yesterday I didn't present this data, this bank data. And according to the answer provided by HRFE, I don't recall the concrete name of the tax service in the UK, but data on the income of my brother-in-law is kept is available only for the past 6 or 7 years. And according to the data provided by the banks, the data is only the data for the past 6-7 years have been kept. And this car was bought in 2017. Respectively, the Commission requested information on previous years, so years before 2018, 2016, 2017, 2015, and so on.
But did you ask from brother-in-law?
Obviously, he went to these banks and he verbally asked for information. He was denied information. He requested a written refusal, and he was referred to the website of the banks because this is where the information is posted. After that, he prepared a written request to tax authorities in order to prove at least the fact that he had the necessary financial means and income. He sent the request and he called these tax authorities officers and agents, and he recorded the talk with these tax officers, and they said that the answer is not ready. Yesterday evening, I was called by my brother-in-law, and he said that they sent an answer, but a negative one, denying him. And yesterday, I sent this answer immediately. I received the answer from him, and I sent it to the Commission.
And the last question from my side, or two last questions. About the house where you lived, or apartment, and car what you used. This is a very simple question. You are judge. Do you think is it important at all that it's clear in the case of a judge who owns the house where he or she lives, or who owns the car where he or she drives around in? Very simple, yes or no answer. Do you think is it important or no?
I didn't quite understand the question, or perhaps it was the interpretation.
Okay.
Could you repeat
one more time? Do you think is it important that it's absolutely transparent? Whom belong the house where a judge live? Whom belong the car what the judge use? And I just ask from you, yes or no? Do you think is it important?
Obviously, it is important.
And my really last question is why? Just why? Describe very shortly why, so we can put your answer to the context.
because I'm a judge and I bear responsibility in this society. I judge different cases, and having this task, it is very important for me to have an irreproachable reputation, so that there are no questions for me. And I want to add, if possible, this apartment in Comrot doesn't belong to me. I have nothing to do with this apartment. I sent photos of this apartment. I sent a different contract, renting contract, and it is registered with the tax authority. The difference between the previous apartment and the one that I am staying in Comrot is there, so it's a different apartment now. About financial means, the financial means of my brother-in-law, I sent the evidence on the fact that he has a company in the UK. I sent evidence with the income, with his income in the past years. He has incomes of around 50,000-60,000 pounds annually. Last week, I think he bought a car that is over 40,000 pounds. He lives in a two-story house, and half of the price for the house, half of the of the cost for the house has been paid already. It's over 500,000 pounds, and this income, they don't appear in a day. It's due to his success and financial stability that he gained year after year. But considering the rules in the UK, we're not able to prove his income. And it's about tight relationships between our families. I presented to the Commission the donation contract through which my wife and my mother-in-law donated to my brother-in-law the apartment. And after his marriage, he obtained a place to live in, so he has a property now. We are close family, and it's absolutely normal for him to help my mother-in-law with money.
Merci.
Thank you. Judge Fujenco, the Commission asked all the questions it had. Thank you for your answers. Would you like to make a brief statement before we conclude this hearing? Thank you very much. No. We have come to the end of today's hearing. I would like to thank Mr. Fujenco for the declarations provided and answers to the question. After the hearing, the panel will approve an evaluation report stating its conclusion as to whether the subject meets the criteria for ethical and financial integrity under Law 252. The panel will strive to complete and approve the evaluation report and announce its conclusion as soon as possible, as it usually does, perhaps in a month after this hearing, and I declare this hearing closed.